Of course, one of our hopes of Ghost Flower is to make Chinese medicine for more people and make some of this ancient wisdom more practical on the day-to-day and get people more interested so that they might end up going to see practitioners like Chris, like Paige, like Liz. And that opens me up to welcoming these fabulous acupuncturists who are doing so much for our health. They're all they practice in New York. That's what I'm trying to say. And so it's interesting that it turns out we asked these three and they are in the epicenter during this crazy wild time that we're trying to navigate. So we're going to get into some of those thoughts. But I just want to welcome Liz Carlson of Common Point Acupuncture, Paige Bourassa of Shen Medicine, and Chen of Eastern Scholars. Thank you guys so much for being here today. We're going to save some time for Q&A, so if you need a little notepad to jot down questions as we speak, we'll kind of stick to the panelists at first. So make sure you don't forget your questions if you have a question so we can come back around to those topics, just so we stay a little streamlined as we navigate the virtual Zoom business. Kata, is there any housekeeping things that you want to tell us as we go?
Not so much. Know that we are recording this meeting so that you guys will be able to refer to it later. So I think when it records, it just records whoever is speaking. So you don't have to be worried about you popping in on that recording unless you're going to speak and ask a question. And otherwise, just like we said, you can stay on mute so that we're not competing for sound. There's a little chat over. For me, it shows up on the right side of my screen. So if there were things that you wanted to message to the whole group at any point, you can do that so that we can stay on top of that. But besides that, I don't think so. I think that's it.
Cool. When we get to the end for Q&A, you can raise your hand. There's a little function that says raise your hand and we'll call on you for questions. So let's get started. So Kata's showing you can do a little thumbs up. If you're not sure, you click on, if you're on a tablet, I don't know about the computer, but click on participants and then it'll give you a chat option and then you can thumbs up or wave your hand and we'll call on you. So first off, we want to know, or yeah, if you can't figure it out, do this. First, we want to know just a little bit about you, where you're currently at, where you're sheltering in place, and one little thing you're doing for yourself to keep you physically and mentally well, just to kick us off. I don't know if Liz or Paige or Chris want to start.
Liz, I'll go. So I guess, okay, so now there's 3 questions and I can't remember any of them. Hi, I'm Paige and I'm an alcoholic. That's one way I'm keeping myself sane is alcoholism. No, I'm kidding. So basically usually I'm in New York. I am sheltering in Nashville right now. So I've escaped the craziness, got out kind of just in time, saw a little bit of it. And I'm here in beautiful Nashville, Tennessee, and did, a really dirty first week of barbecue and then got right back on track. And so now I'm looking at eating vegetables at every meal and getting back to normal life. But I would say, let's see, what am I doing to keep myself sane? Meditation is keeping myself sane for sure. Meditating once a day and then doing a little gratitude practice at night. So get up and meditate, and then at night I do 3 things I'm grateful for, and then my boyfriend and I talk about, there's a really cool exercise called peak or pit that I love to do, and it's what's the peak of your day and what's the pit of your day, and so we just kind of go back and forth and ask each other, and that sort of keeps us in sort of sane shape. But when we're not running around when I'm not running around Shen Medicine and treating patients, it's sort of weird to have a routine. So just trying to keep the regular things I do in life sort of routine-ish in this chaos. But I'm finding meditation's obviously helping a ton, and that little practice. Did I miss a question?
Got it.
Did I? Thank you.
Chris, do you want to tell us?
Sure. So my name's Chen. I also usually have a practice in Manhattan, and I live in Westchester County, an hour north of Manhattan, which is where I'm sheltering in place right now. And it was, definitely I was like a little bit, like maybe 2 days before they shut everything down, I closed my practice. I just didn't want to be a vector of a virus that I didn't know whether I had it or not. And sheltering in place has been pretty interesting. We're homeschooling our 5-year-old, which is, I'm really grateful that she's just in kindergarten and it's not like 4th or 5th grade where there's like actual curriculum to be done. And in terms of staying sane, 2 things have been super helpful. And it was a very rough transition between me and my partner and having our child at home. Writing as a couples practice, as a way of connecting. Like, there's a lot of people doing like daily 10-minute writing topics. We've just been doing like writing on one topic each day and sharing it with each other. And that's been a super help. And Elsie's been joining us. She just shared her writing with us. That's been a super helpful practice. And then the other thing too is we've been sort of like cooking 3 meals a day and really getting into our routine of self-care. And appreciating this moment that we can't be in our normal productive lives. And so to go inward and do the self-care and the routines and the stuff to make sure we're being nourished and we're connecting in this time. And, as much as there's a lot of uncertainty, we also have like just a chance to cultivate something deeper inside of ourselves. And so that's been helping a lot. Did I get it all or is there more? All right. Nice.
Liz, could you share with us?
I sure can. I am Liz Carlson. I usually practice Chinese medicine in Manhattan and haven't done so for a few weeks. And I, like Paige, had a few days of going a little crazy and forgetting the self-care routine, which was kind of nice because it felt like vacation if I could somehow shut out what was going on in the world. But definitely have developed a routine, and I never miss my green juice in the morning, which has been an interesting venture getting vegetables because going to the grocery store is definitely the most stressful thing I've seen, and finding a way to move every day for sure. I live in a loft. I'm in Red Hook, Brooklyn. And I moved all my furniture out of the way to create like a dance yoga studio situation. And my brother and his girlfriend lived directly across the street, and we were together when this was spreading. So they're my quarantine group, and they come over and do yoga or use the Peloton or whatever. And I also started playing Fortnite with my nephews, and it's been an incredible way to connect with them. And yeah, I've never played a video game since I was 10, but it's so much fun. And we play every day at either 1 or 6. So it's great.
Amazing. Thanks, you guys.
Yeah.
Okay, this medicine is ancient. People can't even decide if it's 3,000 or 5,000 years old. Traditions have been passed down practitioner to practitioner, and only recently in the last century have this practice been codified by the Chinese government. We don't have to get into all that, but we all have different lineages when it comes to the Chinese medicine that we've had access to, and some people might not even call it Chinese medicine. I know Chris has a Korean master that he's studied with. What are kind of some what is the lineage that you practice, or what's something special about the kind of medicine that you're practicing? And then what do you think is the through line that links all acupuncturists across the board?
Chris, if you want to jump in, be my guest.
No! He's saying you.
No, let's switch it up. I can't always be the first one.
We have more questions. Don't worry, Paige. There's more where you can come in second.
Okay. Can I come in second? Okay. Let's see. Okay, so the first question, because then I always have to remember things, and I have ADHD, so I'm like, my name is. So I would say the first one was, what kind of medicine do you practice? Is that sort of?
Yeah.
So, I mean, I think like a lot of us, we sort of mix, languages and specialties, and I personally have a background in holistic nutrition, in functional medicine, nutrition, Ayurveda, and TCM is like kind of what I went to school for, but did a specialty in 5-element. And so what you do is you just kind of end up mixing all of these things, and that's what you practice. And I, just kind of jump around from questions, but I think that's sort of the beautiful thing about our medicine, is that you're never going to get the same experience with an acupuncturist. And so, I mean, me personally, I've had patients go and live in LA or Chicago and for 4 months, and they found an acupuncturist, and they came back and they're like, wow, it was so different. And I'm like, yeah, isn't that great? Like, you get a completely different experience, and we're still drawing on the 3,000 to 5,000 year old medicine, but we're all using a different facet of it and using our talents and our healing arts in a different way. So I really think that that's the beauty of it. And no two acupuncture sessions are going to be the same. And I love that. As far as like I said, kind of personally, I'm really big on, psychosomatic illness. I do a ton with the psycho-emotional. I use kind of intuitive medicine to figure out what's going on inside your body, and really believe that, your body's disease patterns and your symptoms that you're experiencing are, they're rooted in some sort of psycho-emotional illness. So, unless it's you're drunk in heels and you rolled your ankle, we don't need to talk about your daddy issues. Well, maybe actually, maybe that would tie in. But anyway, looping back, we'll do daddy issues on another Zoom talk. I think that, you can kind of see where disease happens, and getting to the root of that, is something that we all do. And so I like to play with the emotions and play with, the background that I have in 5-element and psych, and kind of, and access it that way, and try and resolve whatever it is from, the deep-seated emotion or whatever it came from. But yeah, then I kind of sort of answered the second question, but I think the tie that binds is probably just like your mainstream TCM. I'm sure we all use that at some point. I mean, pretty much across the board, if somebody has liver qi stagnation, we're usually all going to be using like liver 2 or 3 at some point, So there are little similarities, but I think what we each bring to the table is totally different. And like I said, that's the beauty of it. And just the fact that, we're able to take this medicine and then have a specialty in fertility, or have a specialty in orthopedics, or have a specialty in, whatever. I can't think. It's the end of the day here, and I've only had 1 coffee. So, okay, Bonnie's giving me the clap. Is this like the Oscars? Like, okay, it's time up. Like, wrap it.
That's like, good. Great answer.
Yeah, I want to jump in because I just wanted to reiterate one thing that you said that I think is really interesting, and in my own sense, this might be one of the through lines in Chinese medicine, but you can totally tell me I'm wrong, of course. But you said you're figuring out where disease happens and getting to the root of it.
Yeah, and we're all doing that. I mean, like, that's what we're taught, is the root versus branch, right? And so, like, if you have a headache, if you're a good TCM practitioner, if you're a good acupuncturist, whatever you want to call yourself in this medicine with all of these different names and designations, you're always going to be looking at the root. You're always going to be looking at why that headache happened. Sure, we can get rid of the pain. Like, that's the bandit. Like, that's the easy stuff. That's the circus sideway, party trick of like, breathe in LI4, boom, it's done. But like, why are you having these headaches? Is it, because you're super stressed out and like, there you go. I'm sure you guys have a shirt that has that point on it.
No.
Now it's time for a plug. Well, I just put the link, swipe up to buy. So, we're all looking at like why that happened. And, is it because you're really stressed out at work and you're drinking and eating meat every day, and, you're really crazy stressful lifestyle and your diet is shit? Or is it because like you don't eat enough and you don't work out and you're underweight and you're super blood deficient and, you know, you have like #fashion life and think coffee a day is enough to eat. Like there's a billion different reasons to have a headache. And so that's kind of the beauty of our medicine, is that we're finding out why and fixing the why, not just the pain.
Mm-hmm.
Cool.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Chris, I'm calling on you next because you were going to go.
All right. Yeah, I mean, I think the only thing I would add to what Paige said is really that, you know, like this sort of traditional medicine, and doesn't matter which tradition it comes from. We're talking about traditional Chinese medicine, which describes so many different styles and possibilities of treatment. My own background is with a Korean 5-element master, and his whole thing is pulse diagnosis. He can read your pulse and tell you everything that's happened to you since the day you were born, even tell you like your mom's emotional status while you were in utero. And so when I met him, I was like, oh man, there's so much that I don't know, and that I'm just scratching the surface of what consciousness even is. And one of the things I've really started to glean from any sort of traditional medicine pathway, whether it's traditional Chinese medicine and acupuncture and herbs, or even like there's a lot of Western traditions and Native American traditions, and you know, just beautiful traditions that have a whole cosmology and idea of how the universe works to describe how our status is in that universe. It's a real like naturalism of like looking at how is the organism functioning in its surroundings. And what we do more than anything is we're noticing like where an organism isn't being efficient with processing energy or experience or nutrition, and trying to help rebalance that. So instead of like empirical medicine, which we often like accuse allopathic medicine of being like the evil, but empirical medicine is simply, we have a problem and we're going to sell you a remedy or a procedure to make that problem go away or to make it feel better. And I think from a naturalist medicine perspective, in our case, like acupuncture is a Taoist medicine. We're looking more at where are you not assimilating your experience properly, and how can we create some level of like, how can we create a state change in the moment so that you feel better, but then create a profound shift at the depth, at the root, which is, you know, what Paige was talking about, to really create an organism that can just maintain homeostasis and maintain its balance in a wider variety of environmental conditions, whether it's like emotional craziness or weather craziness or exposure to toxicity.
Great. Thank you. Thanks. Liz, did you like?
That was so beautifully said, Chris. It's like, yeah, that's the medicine we practice. So it's a beautiful art form as much as it is a medicine. And I think that's really how it expresses, because it is art and everyone has their own art form. I think the tie that binds, and both Paige and Chris said it, is that we are self-healing mechanisms. And I think we would all agree we believe in the body's ability to heal itself. And just to echo Chris, that we are in support of the fact that we are a microcosm within the greater macrocosm, and like the earth, we have cycles and there is kind of order to everything. And despite what lineage you come from, I think everybody could agree on that we're looking for that place in the body that needs to be restored so it can heal itself. And to answer your first question, I'm very strictly TCM, and study closely with a herbal teacher who believes a lot in cold damage. So we talk a lot about function and warmth in the body. And I love lifestyle medicine because I think it's very important. I think it's a great connection between Chinese medicine and making it more accessible for a modern population. And beyond practicing TCM, I have a big focus on women's health and fertility in my practice.
That leads me right into my second question. Thank you, Liz. That was awesome. I don't feel like Western and Eastern medicine replace each other, but they go hand in hand. So if you could imagine your perfect
health healthcare system, what would it look like to you? If we could integrate the Eastern with the Western, how could they pair up?
Can I go first on this one?
Let's.
Okay. I read through this question and I was like, if there was a tagline as an answer to this question, would be that preventative medicine isn't a privilege. And unfortunately right now in our culture, it very much is a privilege to have any kind of access to preventative medicine, because very few, let alone insurance companies, but government programs cover something like acupuncture. And so one of my patients is an infectious disease doctor. And 2 weeks ago, or 2 months ago, we were having a conversation about the spread of this pandemic. And she's since started posting on Facebook and talking about her daily experiences, which are crazy. And she's like, I keep being called the front line in medicine. And she was like, that's so wrong. I'm the last line right now. This is the scary part. There's no one behind me. I'm the person putting these patients on ventilators. You are the front line. So she's really talking to her audience, like the people that are choosing to stay at home and loving strangers by not going out and having their normal life. They're the front line. And so I'd say that about something like Chinese medicine. We should be the front line in our healthcare system. We practice primary care. The belief in the body and the fact that cycles like sleep and exercise and drinking water and eating good food, that restores you. That is primary care. Primary care is not getting your blood pressure taken or getting a colonoscopy. Of course, those things are so important, but that's even the second line in healthcare. So really using our medicine as prevention is the way I would like to see us better integrated into our system.
Mm-hmm.
Love that. Amazing.
All right. No, Chris, you go.
Okay. I want to piggyback on that. It really is that, like, you know, what are we doing to keep healthy? There's like this, you know, quick story of like 100 people are in a room and a guy walks in and coughs, and the next day 97 people get sick. And if you ask like a normal practitioner, well, what happened? It's like, oh, guy walked in, 97 people got exposed to a pathogen and they're sick the next day. And you ask like a more advanced practitioner what happened, and they'll be like, oh, a guy coughed, everybody was exposed, and 97 people's immune systems couldn't handle it, and they were sick the next day. And like when you're asking like someone who's really in the healing arts, like what happened, is like we really want to be those 3 people that didn't get the flu. We really want to create, you know, that's like in genetics, that's the F2 generation. That's the next series. Like, how does life go on and keep getting more efficient rather than inefficient? And culturally, we've become really inefficient at taking care of our health. And this moment, I mean, it's the coming together of so many different elements. I mean, last year, like there's plenty of, if you search the internet, and you're on the internet right now, so you know how to use it, there's plenty of conspiracy theory about what's creating corona. Is it 5G, or is it, you know, this or that or the other thing, and what can you do to make it better? There's like a million different remedies, and this, you know, like the planet was burning down last year. Australia burned down, Russia burned down, California burned down. Like the rainforest in Brazil is being cut down faster than it's ever been, and it was already being cut down faster. Like the lungs of the planet have been burnt up and they're not breathing. And then we're organisms on this planet, and because we want to have access to cheap food and cheap goods from China, we just keep letting ourselves go through this experience and not be present to what our existence is costing our community and the global community around us. And so, you know, the bigger question is like, what's the ideal medical system? And we're in this moment, it's possible. The whole planet is coming together to support, like to flatten a curve to help the most vulnerable among us. And unfortunately, like it's going to run its course, and we couldn't get ahead of the curve at all because there's still no way to really get tested accurately. But in this moment, we've come together and totally stopped this mindless goal towards productivity and come together to really slow down and take stock of ourselves and take care of the most vulnerable among us. And the ideal healthcare system to me starts to look something more like that, like starting from a young age, like what are we doing to take personal responsibility for our health? Because the more healthy we are, the more we're contributing to our communities and the global community. And the more we're like just eating McDonald's and just mindlessly consuming and like trying, taking a remedy for our allergies rather than getting to the root cause. Maybe your allergies are coming from eating too much gluten, too much dairy. It's like the more we start to really ask those deeper questions instead of trying to maintain our convenience, the healthier our society and our species is going to get. And so, in the ideal, it's like staying healthy isn't like lucky. Staying healthy is the goal, like to avoid becoming ill in the first place, which is exactly what Liz was saying too.
Yeah, awesome. I love that. And I love that story about the infectious disease doctor from Liz. That was really, really interesting and so on point. And I think, you guys are hitting the nail on the head. But yeah, ideally, I think perfect utopic world, we're using our medicine that is 3,000 to 5,000 years old, however old we think it is, and using that, like you said, goes from kind of like a young age and taking responsibility for our own health, but also kind of I love the integrative model. I love, us with functional medicine. I love the fact that we are evolving and that we are starting to work together. And yeah, ideally, you're not going to the doctor, you're not taking antibiotics, you're not going to the hospital, you're not doing those things. I think, if we do all of the preventative stuff, if we're using our medicine with other forms of natural medicine and functional medicine to kind of, leave illness as sort of the last resort, get the symptoms as they first start coming. You're getting, just to kind of use the same example, but you're getting reoccurring headaches. Like, let's look at why that is and try and, heal that from within before it gets to the point where you're going and getting Topamax or Botox all over your skull for the pain. And, I love Western medicine. If I get like a gunshot wound, I'm not going to find herbs for it. If I get hit by a car, I'm not trying to figure out, what Jingwell points I can bleed. I am going to the hospital. And I think that there's, the East versus West fight needs to kind of stop, and we need to get along. But we have a much bigger responsibility in that forefront to, like you guys said, be preventative, take responsibility for your own health, and use the Western model as a last resort. If I have a raging infection that's taking over my body, or gangrene, whatever it is, something with like pus and just like taking over everything. Yeah, I want antibiotics. But before that, there's no way that there wasn't some sort of red flag. There's no way that I wasn't having a fever. The body gives you signals. And so it's our job to pick up on those signals and personally take responsibility, but then go see your Chinese medicine doctor, go see your functional medicine doctor, go see your healer, and try and figure out what that is before it becomes a full-blown infection, and then go to the hospital. But I think there's room for both. And ideally for me, you're looking at an integrative model like early and, doing, like Liz said, lifestyle medicine. I mean, shit, before we had doctors and people to go to for this stuff, like, it was grandmothers giving us weird tea and like cupping us with things around the house. We can go back to that, that's the medicine that I grew up with. Was, I went to high school, this is weird aside, but I went to high school in an all Asian high school. I went to high school with, literally there were 4 white kids in my grade. It was all Chinese. So like I would go over, and this is how I found out about this medicine, this little like blonde chick, and I'm just like, la, la, la. And I go over to my girlfriend Jen's house, and she's, like got this whole house of Chinese relatives that range from like 2 years old to like 175, and I'm wondering like why my uncles are dying at 40 from like autoimmune diseases. And so, you go over to her house and like I would sniffle and her mother would cut me with something. And I'm like, what is this? You know, and but nobody was ever sick there. You know, and this is true story. I love this. She complained that like her great grandmother needed to die soon so she could have her own room because she and her sister were sharing a room. She's like, these people are living too long, you know? And so like, this is how they did it in the old country. This is how ancient medicine and this is how medical anthropology, you know, evolved. And yet we have forgotten that in the last 300 years of Western medicine and are like, go in with an itch and we're like, cut it off, burn it, put drugs on it. You know, let's cup it and take some herbs and drink some weird tea first. And then if that doesn't work, you can cut it off or burn it or smoke it, whatever you want to do. Don't smoke it.
I wanted to ask you guys a kind of a follow-up question to that, because what I was hearing from all of you, we're comparing kind of these approaches to Eastern medicine and Western medicine, where in Western medicine, we're trying to remove a symptom, and in Eastern medicine, we're trying to get to the root of it. And so to me, when I think about maybe like a common Western civilian coming in because of an issue, where do you start in cultivating a mindset of like personal responsibility, or like where to start looking for where do you start with the discomfort that they're experiencing? How do we start to explore that in a way that feels useful and not too overwhelming, if you've never thought about it like that?
Are we gonna just go? Okay, so just so I understand, that was a beautifully crafted question. Just so I understand, the scenario is a common, a person walks into your clinic, they have a symptom, and where do you start with them? Is that
more like,
or what?
How should we be thinking about our health as non-practitioners who haven't dedicated our lives to thinking about it in this way? How do you suggest we start thinking about our health this way so that we're not relying on the Western system, we're taking more responsibility sooner?
Got it. Well, obviously, just walk in the dark now. I would say, probably just to use Liz's phrase that I love, by the way, lifestyle medicine. There is so much that you can do just with diet and sleep and mindset. Like there you have so many tools in your own arsenal that are we going to help you with like ancient medicine and herbs and needles and kind of like help facilitate that healing? Absolutely. But I think, as any of us would agree, if you are coming to us for something and just going to continue using headaches, but coming to us for something and you come to us for headaches and you walk out the door and you smoke a pack of cigarettes and eat some ribs and have a Coca-Cola, there's not a lot that we can do. Your headaches may decrease for a little bit, but at the end of the day, you're going to have to take responsibility for that. And you probably won't get better as quickly as the person who starts thinking about their sugar intake, starts thinking about their sleep quality, starts thinking about their digestion, starts thinking about their menstruation. So I think honestly, empowering the patient and being like, look, I love seeing you, but if I'm seeing you after a couple months for this same thing, I'm not doing my job, or there's some sort of disconnect here. So you absolutely have to implement lifestyle medicine changes. And I think, the mindset of taking control of that and not just coming to your doctor, your wellness provider and going I can't do it, help me. Don't put the power in us. You have the power. And that's where white coat syndrome comes from, right? It's just I don't know what's going on. It itches or it hurts. And you talk to the doctor and they're like, we need to amputate your head or whatever it is. And you're like, no, I don't want to hear that. Well, if you take a little bit more responsibility yourself before we get to the amputation part. I don't know why I'm so barbaric with this, but I always feel you really need to make a point, and for some reason decapitation really drives it home for me. So I think that if you're taking responsibility and putting it in your patient's hands, they can really see okay, well, did you stay up till 2:00 in the morning watching Tiger King for 5 nights and then you got up at 6 with the baby? do you know why you might be feeling anxious and frazzled? Like if you're just spitballing here, we're just spitballing. And then they can start to see, like by educating the patient, they'll start to kind of like the penny will drop. They'll start to see how they can, implement those changes and really heal themselves. And I think like, again, just like diet, sleep, and like mindset, like lifestyle, like how your routine is so much of the medicine. Like it is, if you fix that and you're on point with that, really what we're doing with the needles and the herbs is we're just tweaking stuff, like little bits, like it should be pretty good. I don't know if that answered anything, but I got to say decapitated on a Zoom meeting, so I'm pretty stoked.
Chris or Liz, you want to weigh in there?
Go for it, Liz.
I don't think this really was the purpose of your question, but I would say that building a rapport with the person in front of you is the way to go to get this medicine out there more accessible, because I have a clinic close to Wall Street and I have these guys coming off of their desks at which they sit for 14 hours a day and wonder why they have shoulder pain. We kind of just get to the shoulder pain. It's how my clinic is set up. You can choose whether or not you want the functional approach to Chinese medicine or you just want some needles. And it's not to dilute the whole medicine, but it's to get someone as quickly feeling pain to on the table and just get some blood moving, qi. And then after you build rapport with that person, say like, gosh, you seem dehydrated or whatever, like in a loving way, like make an observation about the person's presentation and start to talk about how what they eat and what they drink might be affecting their body. So I think that seemed like part of your question at the beginning, like how can we start to talk about this, and just giving people little bite-sized portions to begin with, instead of going in and saying like, we have to recognize your state of your spirit in order to fix your shoulder pain. And I always say start with the basics. I don't at all mean to be pushing my practice or my brand, but over 13 years of practice, I was like, there are basics in health, and that's where you start. Eat whole food, drink plenty of water, move every day, breathe deeply, sleep enough, detox, which we don't talk about enough, and celebrate. So like, why are you working so hard on your health? So you can be a happy person and enjoy your life. So I always say like, let's just start there. It's 7 words. And it's something you can check in on every day. And it makes so much sense. It's stupidly simple, but oftentimes you have people come in, they want these answers, and you're like, start there. There's this girl that wanted me to do a blog for just what's going on with the pandemic. And I was like, I'm going to say what I always say. And I'm like, I don't know if people really want to hear right now that they're supposed to not be eating flour and alcohol. It seems to be saving a lot of people. So just making it simple and approachable for the person in front of you. That's kind of how I approach the entrance into a very complicated, it's a very complex medicine, but it doesn't have to be for the person consuming it.
Do you want me to skip to the next question, or do you want to pop in there, Chris?
Just for a second.
Yeah.
Because, I think like the most important thing, and Liz and Paige both touched on it, but it's really about empowering the patient. Like we live in a culture where science is king, and doctors, it's like you got to get a doctor's note for anything that we're going to do in our lives. And as a result, like our health, our well-being, how we feel inside of us is outsourced to another person who has no idea how we're actually feeling. And I actually think like in terms of, more traditional practitioners, we're looking at people's tongue and feeling their pulse and palpating their body. We get closer to feeling what a patient feels than anyone who's just looking at numbers on a page from a blood test or an x-ray. It's like it's already, 2 or 3 degrees of separation outside of the body. And even from there, like the only reason to do that, it's like we have needles and herbs that can, quickly change their state to build rapport, because you make somebody feel better and they notice that state change immediately. They're like, whoa, okay, this works. And if it works, they're going to keep coming back. And if they realize that there's something else they can do besides just like suck it up or take it, be dependent on a medicine, there's freedom in that. And then to give that freedom back to the patient, it's like, it's not me fixing you. It's like, I want to show you how to fix yourself. I want to show you that you're capable of like, helping your period cramps go away, or like you're capable of like helping hack your sleep and hacking your nutrition so that you don't have such bad hay fever in springtime. And it's all about really giving that power and teaching and empowering and connecting with people so that they really, it doesn't seem so complicated to them all the time, but it's really, I take these steps of being grounded in my life, going through my practice and my ritual of health, which is, as far as I'm concerned, our most important resource.
So cool. Thanks, you guys. Okay, I'm going to get real juicy here. I'm just about to dive into the thick stuff. How did this pandemic get so out of hand in your view? And what can we do in the future to maybe not be able to prevent things like this, but to minimize the effects? In other words, if we can do the lifestyle medicine, we can get the nutrition to happen, we can get the sleep to happen, we can get the exercise and the routines in a more moderate schedule. If we can lift up the general health of the population, would we be so widely affected by a disease like COVID-19?
Not it.
I'm going to come in from the outside angle on that question, because I think there's a lot of like a drive, like let's talk about, have healthcare practitioners and talk about coronavirus and like what's going on and like, what are the basics? How can we stay safe in this moment that we're having right now? Stay hydrated and take vitamin C and eat well, get your sleep. And then you can add zinc and vitamin D to that. It's been proven to really help resist it and help reduce the length and the severity of the symptoms if you have it. But how did this get so bad? It's because we've been living in this mode of like trying to be overproductive for way too long. And essentially like something simple like paid sick time, like, paid days off for when you're sick is like, it was like, people wouldn't even have that discussion until coronavirus became so overblown and out of hand that they're like, wait a minute, sick people really shouldn't be here. They're a risk to us. It's like, oh, you're sick. Who cares? You're sick. It doesn't affect my productivity if you're sick. And so this level of disconnection in our communities has been a big driving force, and then we can all like sort of look at the larger, more like structural issues, like not taking a flu pandemic seriously until it's already too late, until it's become pandemic. Oh, here's this really contagious thing, but it's in another country. It's people who I don't know and who I'm not like close to, I'm not affected by. And, in like the good news is so far smoking kills more people than Corona has. The bad news is this is killing a lot of people. It's a serious moment. It's like the most vulnerable among us are really being affected. And it's like our parents and our grandparents and the one, all of us know someone who Corona might have already gotten to and may have already killed possibly. And if we don't know that person, we know someone who it could be. So it's big, it's much bigger and much more personal than most things have been. And the reason why it's been allowed to get to this point is because we haven't taken these things personally, like what happens on the planet and what happens in the larger sphere of reality. Like we haven't been taught as a culture, or even if we sort of knew that our way of life is damaging to the planet and unsustainable, it's never landed quite so personally as it has in this moment. And so what do we do to prevent it? Is like, let's not get back to life the way it was before and try and get back to normal. Like, let's remember that this happened and it is scary, and we can do better. We can consume more efficiently. We can work more efficiently, take better care of ourselves, and take better care of each other.
Amazing. Thank you. Liz, can you weigh in here?
I will really echo a lot about what we've been saying already, but I feel like the most metaphysical thing I will say, well, in the next 8 minutes, is that this is just a huge wake-up call. And gosh, I hope we stay awake after. I really hope people learn from this and understand that we can't separate from the earth, from our community, from ourselves. And I think beyond that lifestyle medicine implemented, educating people that they're really good filters if they're taking good care of themselves, I think is part of our medicine that isn't in our common cultural language. It's oftentimes like, there's a virus, there's a bacteria, there's a bad thing out there, and I'm me, and I have to shut down my window and doors so it doesn't get me. And it's like, bring it in. It's part of our earth now. And let that body that's been strengthened know how to live with it or get rid of it. So those are my quick thoughts on that. I just feel like we have no language around the fact that our bodies are incredible filters, and when we just have to support that system.
Thank you. Paige.
Oh, good. No, I'm kidding. I mean, I just think, like, piggybacking on these two guys, a lot of it has been said, but I think that we're going to continue to see flare-ups like this from, like, just to get real hippie and granola here for a minute, because, here we are. But like, we've had the fires in the Amazon, we had the fires in Australia, we, have had tsunamis. I mean, I literally was in Nashville for the tornado that barely got national coverage, but ripped through this city. And it's something that doesn't apparently happen very often here, and hasn't happened, I think, since the 1990s to this magnitude. And I'm literally telling you, I have lived in 17 different cities, and I've been through earthquakes and hurricanes, and a tornado is no fucking joke. And the way it ripped everybody's life apart, and then to fly out of that to go treat patients in New York, and only to be turned away 4 days later because they're shutting the city down. Like, our earth is going to continue flaring up and giving us a huge warning. I mean, we've had global warming, we've had all of these signs for years and years and years, and it's just going to continue to get more and more violent until we listen, until we start to act more as a global community, until we start to make better changes in our lifestyle practices. And look, I don't know, I'm Canadian, I don't know the first thing about American politics, so I'm not going to weigh in from that angle. But even so much as bringing bags to the grocery store, and, making sure you recycle, and just, you would be surprised how these little everyday things are going to make such a big difference, because this will not be the last of this, and I think Liz was saying, like, the idea of, like, the separation, oh, like, I'm so sorry about what's happening in Australia. Like, oh my God, the Amazon, like, so sad. Like, this has been the first thing that's really united a global community. And we got to watch, like dominoes, that take down country after country after country. And we were like, it's not going to be a big deal here. It's not going to be a big deal here. Boom. Look at us. Small businesses are now closing. We all own our own practices. We're all small businesses. This will affect us for the rest of the year and probably years to come. It's affecting everything. And I just think that unless we start to make those personal changes in our lives, we're going to have more of these. This won't be the end of it. This wasn't one little bat that did this. This was, Mother Earth just fucking raging because nobody's listening to her, So that's what I think.
You perfectly tied together the whole conversation, because Mother Earth is like almost in the emergency room now.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, exactly.
We have the warning signs.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Hopefully she's like just at urgent care, but
Hopefully the urgent care. And soon acupuncture clinics will be right next to urgent care so that people can choose a little different medicine if they want it. That's my dream. Just wanted to throw that in there. Well, we're almost at time, but I wanted to, last thing, hear if you guys are doing anything virtually for your patients, and let our audience weigh in with any questions they have for the last few minutes here. You can chat us your question, or you can raise your hand and we'll call on you. So as our people are thinking of that, can you guys tell us if you're offering any virtual help to your people?
So Shen Medicine, we pivoted and are offering telemedicine. I think a lot of us are doing that in the wake of this disaster, not being able to put hands on you. So we are offering, basic telemedicine. You just show up in your jammies with your, hopefully, water, but whiskey is, I understand. And we do a session with you virtually, and we go over holistic nutrition, functional medicine, nutrition, lifestyle medicine. Liz, I'm stealing that. That is beautiful. I'm like, whew. And like meditation practices, breathing, acupressure protocols, pretty much the gamut. Like, I think we're all offering pretty much the same thing. So it's just, everything's online. You get to do a FaceTime sort of Zoom meet and get your whole medicine in the comfort of your home and jammies.
Cool.
Nice. And wait, Paige, how can everybody find you if they want to follow up with you?
I mean, how can they not find me? I feel like I'm like, I'm on the gram, I'm on the book, I'm in your face right now. You can go on the AcuChick. We also have a Shen Medicine Instagram. So that is, there's a bunch of news plastered there. But if you go to our website, www.shenmedicine.com, you can book right online there, and we will be happy to heal you and support you through whatever you're going through.
Excellent.
Oh, Chris, what you got? Okay, Liz.
Same. I'm offering virtual visits. I actually always have, because of my background in fertility, and I think it's a great time to educate people that acupuncturists are 75% other than acupuncture. It's more than the needles. So you can find me on commonpoint.care. And there's a booking site there, and I'm available virtually.
Cool. Chris?
Yeah, same for me. I'm available virtually. I'm also offering free Qigong or donation-based Qigong classes on Zoom every day. And my next one is actually in an hour at 8 p.m. Eastern. And you can find all the information about that at easternscholars.com. And I hope I get to see you guys there. This is an interesting time, but also a great moment to pivot for all of us.
Yeah. I think you guys probably saw this question from Melissa, but it's for Liz. Detox is a basic activity for staying healthy. So what would a detox look like?
The 7 o'clock clap is going on. It always makes me tear up. In New York City, every night at 7 p.m., we cheer out the window.
Oh, wow.
No, it's okay. There's plenty of people in my neighborhood that's very distracted. For the essential workers. That's what it's for. Isn't it sweet? Anyway, I, like Bonnie, would like to implement free acupuncture clinics. So everything I do is to make lifestyle medicine as easy, simple, accessible as possible. There is so much information out there on the internet, and because there's so much, I think people feel overwhelmed and don't start, and feel like, if I can't afford the goop juice detox, I can't detox. And it's like, oh God, this is how you detox: through your skin, through your breath, through your poop, and through your pee. And there's one other. So you start by saying, like, have I sweat today? Have I breathed enough? Am I pooping every day? Which is so important. And the amount of women going through fertility treatments that don't poop every day really overwhelms me. We just got to the 7 o'clock hour. We're talking about poop. I feel like that's a joke in Chinese medicine. You always end up talking about poop. So really easy things you can do are follow the basics, eat whole foods, and that's super easy. Just ask yourself if you could have eaten it 400 years ago. Ask yourself if you're drinking enough water, and always start the day with lemon water, whatever appeals to you. People say warm does help the liver wake up a little bit faster. And sweat and sleep and do the things that are really basic to your health, and then go from there. Then you can talk to a practitioner about what herbs are detoxing your liver and what supplements you need and what else you can do. But that's generally what we can say to the masses, to follow just really simple rules in health. I hope that answered your question, and Melissa, please feel free to reach out to me and I can give you more answers.
Awesome. Anyone else have another question? Can we hang for one more question? Is that cool with everybody? Cool. Anybody?
We answered everything. Every question in the world was
We
answered.
covered so much. It's amazing how much we covered.
That reminds
Your
me,
health is now complete.
if you guys, viewers, are interested in having another panel like this, if you think that it's useful, please do send us a message. You can just DM at Ghostflower Active on our Instagram. That's a great way to find us. And so we would love to keep hosting these kinds of discussions and feature these rock star experts. And so if you felt like there's not enough time for the question you want to ask right now, or you wake up in the middle of the night and think about a new one, let us know so that we can have these panels happening some more.
Yeah. So fabulous. Thank you all so much. My final question was, what can we do for ourselves while we're at home? But you totally answered it already. You're right, Paige. We answered all the questions. We covered it all. It was so fabulous. This is what is most important to us, is gathering together like this and sharing information and talking about how we can shift this baby so we're all feeling better, feeling good across the whole gamut. So let us know your extra thoughts. You can also email ghostflower@community@ghostflower.com if you have more questions. We're sure to send them off to our ACUs that we love so dearly. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, guys.
Thanks for having me.
Thank you so much.
Take care.
Bye.
Okay, we'll see everybody later.